fully bright. All good, all good. Right, let me just check that everything is working. I think that looks right. How are we all? Whoever is on, say hi. We'll just kick off in 1 minute. As you all know, just me, sofa chats, me on the sofa here in Glasgow in my mum's house before I head off on Thursday to Oxford, where I'll be for a few months. Just me reading from my book, Uncertainty is Your Superpower. You can get it, link in the description, on Kindle or paperback. This session tonight, it's not therapy, it's not coaching, it's not a workshop, it's just me reading from passages from my book and just expanding on some of the topics. Hello, nice to see you, Greg. And do you know what's really funny though, right? So before we kick off tonight, I was having my own mini meltdown. You know, if you know, when you just have one of those moments, and maybe it's part hormones, but I am juggling so much right now. And I genuinely just knew that when I came here, I'm talking about reading from my book. It's a reminder. And as soon as I opened at the chapter, I swear, instantly I was like, oh no, look how far you've come. Come on. You can go this next bit. I think when we have these moments where you think, God, if one more thing goes wrong, or if I've got to juggle one more problem or find one more solution, sometimes you just feel like you're running out of steam. I don't know if anybody else is the same, but that's certainly how I felt today. I don't know if it's me, my camera feels, or my lens feels really blurred, so let's give that a go. That's how dirty my camera must have been, full of fingerprints. It's certainly a lot brighter now. Right. So, as I said, for anyone that's joining, I'll be reading from my book, Uncertainty is Your Superpower. It's basically about my life from the early years to the reinvention to what I'm doing now, right up until October last year. And the rest of the stuff I share on social media, and I'll be doing a bigger sort of videos and conversations about where I'm going next on YouTube. So please subscribe and follow. I would be super grateful. Anyway, let's dive in. We are in chapter 15. Can you believe I've been doing this now for over 15 weeks, because some chapters were so big I had to split them. So this chapter, let's just get myself settled, is chapter 15, Turning of the Tides, Moving into Calmer Waters. My God, I needed to read that like an hour ago when I was having my full-on meltdown. So for anyone joining, just remember, if you want to chat tonight, you need to be subscribed. Also, if you're watching on catch up, let me know, drop a comment in YouTube, let me know you watched the replay, any thoughts and you want to share, drop it into the comments and I'll get back to you. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it tonight. The connection to this new community was a shining light in the darkness for me. I was guided to safety in some ways because I felt supported. I worked through my business challenges, yes, but it was how I changed as a person that became the ultimate gateway to changing my life. I shared with them how I was craving space, not just physical space, although that was part of it, but emotional, mental, and energetic space. I was feeling like an elephant in a shoebox living in Glasgow. My world had grown too small for the version of me that I was becoming. I needed movement, new cultures, new faces, new challenges. I wanted to stretch, to see who I could be when I wasn't locked in a routine. Same shops, same streets, same loop. I'd outgrown entirely the comfort that had once kept me safe. Now it just made me twitch. Often I'd sit on my sofa at home, rigid as if my body was mirroring how stuck I felt in life. Everything felt tight, predictable, boring. My days were a cycle of rinse and repeat. I was done with it. Not my clients, they were my saving grace. They kept me going. It's just that there was no creativity left in me. It was like living in grey. I was well versed in guiding others towards the light in the work I do with clients, but I couldn't see the light to follow my own destiny. This was until that bright sunny day in March when I drove to a beautiful retreat in Loch Lomond as part of the new community I was in. I sensed something inside of me, almost at the point of bursting out, but I held it in with fear and limitation. This day, this retreat, this experience, and the support would be key to unlocking my potential and moving into the next phase of my life. I had no clue how, but I just knew deep inside it was going to happen. The drive to the retreat was blissful, with the sun shining too. It felt like someone was looking out for me that day. I cried, I embodied, and I fell apart to come back together all in one day. I woke up to the fact that everything I wanted to do with my life was possible. I had lost my trust in my inner voice. That day I heard it clearly. You have everything you need to support you in taking an extended trip around Italy to figure out what's next. It was loud, clear, and I trusted it completely. It was like a weight falling off my shoulders to say it out loud to others. That set the intention and a chain of events I could never have imagined in my wildest dreams. Before I knew it, I was sitting in my living room with my Lonely Planet book that I'd bought way back in my corporate days. I had the Italy bug running through me for years. I opened the map of the Italian boot and I looked endlessly at all the places that I'd been and still wanted to go. The list was growing and the prices skyrocketed. It was going to cost thousands and I didn't see how I could make it possible. Yes, I had the money, but how much was I willing to invest in this dream? I went back and forth for weeks, tying myself in knots. I initially started mapping every detail, including all the locations, accommodation, transfer routes, and that's precisely why I couldn't decide. I was forcing it again. I knew I wasn't looking to be a tourist as such, so I didn't want 5-star hotels or jam packed itineraries. I wanted slow mornings, real people, seaside air, and cafes that didn't scream TripAdvisor top 10. I wanted to feel like a local, if I'm honest, even if I was only borrowing that life for a while. Eventually, exhausted one night, I stopped looking. I went to bed and slept on it. And that's when I heard the voice of logic. Stop, Debbie. Why not choose one place for 3 weeks, do some travel from that base, and then move somewhere else for a few weeks before coming home? And that sounded good to me. And it should have made it easier to narrow down where to go, but no. I was going round in circles until one uneventful evening, I was sitting on my sofa with my map in front of me. While I was scanning the map, I happened to glance up at my TV. I wasn't watching anything, so Netflix was doing that thing that when you don't choose anything, it went through a slideshow of possible movies it thinks I might like to watch. I spotted one that showed a picture of people on a beach called Walking on Sunshine. A super cheesy rom-com, but something about it drew me in. I clicked for more information to see what it was about and read that the movie was filmed in Puglia in Italy. That was it. I just knew it. That's the place I'm meant to go. I didn't know the exact town yet, but something about that region had this magnetic pull. I immediately scanned the map, looking at the coastline, all of the towns along the way, and then I saw it. Monopoly. It was more than just the name. It got me thinking about rolling the dice, taking a chance, and of course the board game. Whatever it was, I just felt it in my gut. This is where I'm supposed to go. That retreat day in Loch Lomond ignited the spark inside of me, but it was Italy that turned it into a flame. Just like rounding up my team back in the bank to tell them that I was leaving, I did the same thing with my family and told them that I was going to Puglia. They were happy for me, yes, but sad too. It was time though, time for me to move forward. Can't tell you how poignant that is, that chapter tonight on how I was feeling with the mini meltdown. So even the Zen folks like me have her moment. Anyway, let's take a look at the whisper and then we'll dig into some of the topics. When the tide starts to turn, don't cling to the shore you've already outgrown. The calm that follows isn't the end of the storm, it's the start of your becoming. So, the main part for me, don't cling to the shore where you've outgrown it, because if it's calm and it's settled, of course, it's going to make you want to hold on tight. But this, it could just be, stepping away from that, could just be that moment when you are beginning to step into who you're meant to be. And honestly, I would say that that's pretty much what happened for me. It was having that confidence to recognize that I wanted to move forward. I had outgrown where I was. I had outgrown even the pet sitting, and I knew I was ready for something more aligned to what I was looking to do in life. And I'd had that call to Italy for a long, long time. So watching that movie slideshow come up and seeing Puglia and, remembering back to that day when I just knew it was going to be a Monopoly, I just remember how it made me feel. I just knew something was so right about it. And you'll hear in the next chapter how it unfolds. But I think it's worth really digging in a little bit further to, for me, it was the turning of the tides, moving to calmer waters. I thought that perhaps all the disruption, the changing, the moving, the travel was not going to be necessarily the calming thing for me. But you'll read in the next chapters that that's exactly what happened. Letting go the familiar to free myself to try something new was where a lot of the answers lay. And my goodness, I had no clue what was in store for me over the next year. It's been really quite unbelievable, all the things that have happened, and I can't wait to share it with you coming up. The line, the comfort that made me safe now made me twitch. Yes. And that's the thing. So it goes back to you've outgrown this. So I think, we've all probably had those experiences in life. We've all sat with those moments and thought to ourselves, this is so comfortable and I feel so at peace. And honestly, I'm just going to be real with you. Tonight, I had a moment where I just wished I could just cling for a split second to something so solid, stable, and familiar. But the minute that I even thought that thought, whether it's a job, whether it's to stay here in Scotland, whatever it is, instantly my body has a visceral response to that because I know I've already outgrown all these things. So even though what's on the other side is still laced with challenges, difficulties, more decisions, things that I'll not be successful at, things that I will be successful at, it's that inner feeling of, oh, the thought of sticking with that same old isn't the answer. So for me, leaving again to go to Oxford, and then the goal is to be leaving from there to go back to Italy. But I'm not 100% sure how it's all going to unfold, and that's the truth of it. But what I do know is I trust that feeling on the inside that tells me that something to stay stationary, something to stick with the familiar, isn't always the right answer for me. So I wonder, just Greg, if you fancy sharing it. I'm just curious where you might be feeling your own level of where comfort has become uncomfortable, because what I know is from my own experience and also from working with many, many clients, they often come to me with frustration, with disappointment, with anger inside. It just, how has my life got like this? Or why have I got all these things and I'm not happy? Like, what is it? It's inside of me that's making me frustrated. And often it is this feeling of I've reached a level of comfort in my life, but that comfort has gone on too long and now it's frustrating, making me angry, making me resentful. And actually, the comfort has become uncomfortable. So for me, the questions are, where does that show up for you? Is that part of something that you're experiencing, or have you experienced it? Because maybe you're not there right now. Maybe you're loving life and you're in a great feeling of where you are. But if you've got something to share, we're all ears to hear it, and it's work for yourself. Yeah, a lot of time it is. And, we have different ways of approaching it. You've got someone that I know is a friend, and she talks a lot about going part time soon, with a very, very short time after that, she'll be in retirement. And as much as the work part of it doesn't necessarily fill her with joy or excite her very much, she's created a really great life for her with the things that are important, which is family, grandchildren, some travel, a partner, her beautiful home. So for her, the key thing is less about focusing on what doesn't feel good in work, and more about doing the best she can, because the reason that she's there is to facilitate the life she wants. But that's because where she is in her journey, she has no desire at this stage to be pursuing another corporate position. She's happy to see out her corporate situation to the end with the company she's with. But that doesn't mean it will be the end forever of work, because she also has creative pursuits. She has side hustle ideas. So she's likely to go on and do something that's meaningful to her. But for her journey, with the short time span that's left, she's made a decision that this is what I'm going to accept because it works for me for now. And I get to do the other things that I want. That's not where everyone is, though. Because if you have plenty of time in front of you, and that comfort has got so uncomfortable that you feel resentful, a lot of the time what we end up doing as well is when we go home or we live life, we start to do things like we constantly want to fill our time with other things to distract ourselves. I did that. I was constantly on holiday. Everywhere I could squeeze in even a couple of days away, because I just wanted away. I just didn't want to have that feeling that I was connected to that environment or that place. But in actual fact, I always had to come back, which meant I always had that feeling of returning. And I was like, I don't think that the going away and coming back's the answer. I think there's a bigger issue for me. And then obviously I resolved that. So that's not also the same for everyone. I'm not saying everyone would need to do that, but it's asking yourself, where are you on that scale? Is it the work? Is it is it building a life that you want externally and you're enjoying that to the fullest, or is that putting an elastoplast on it about a deeper rooted issue? Because sometimes that's what it is. Um, yeah, so busy and productive, but growth slowing. Yeah, and that's a it's a common thing, isn't it, in corporate, especially if you're looking around and you think, where is there else for me to challenge myself? And I guess my question to yourself would be, depending on how you feel about work, and you're saying that the growth is slowing, is it that you want to climb further in that field or expand in another way in that direction? Because I remember being in corporate and knowing I didn't want that. So I would I'd look at the people above me, and I knew at one point I was like, oh, I don't want any of their jobs. I think that's a telltale sign that I'm in the wrong environment for me. But if you're looking around and seeing whether it's in that company or another company that there's growth, development, and progression, then there is something to work towards. Or leave the company perhaps to a higher position somewhere else, if that's the direction you want to go. Or is it something completely different? Only you'll know the answer. Um, yeah, and it's great having, say, a lot of people I know have a side hustle, and it's less about the money. It's for a creative outlet. It's for, I want to do something meaningful that feels good for me because it helps my soul. So that when I go to my work every day and it pays not only my bills but the lifestyle I have, then I'm okay with that, because I have very much fullness everywhere else. It's a balancing act, and you hit the nail on the head. Balancing the choice, and not willing to take less financially. That's personal choice at the end of the day. That's where it comes down to, what feels good for us. I've made a lot of sacrifices, but that was my choice. I know what it took to make the decisions that I made, um, but I got to reap a lot of rewards after a period of time. I also became a version of myself that I've always knowing I was and wanted to step into a lot more peaceful. Maybe not today when I was having a mini meltdown, but just the idea that I have more freedom, but it comes with its challenges, stressors, worries, um, sacrifices. Um, it just comes with a lot of things that you have to really consider. One of the things I know to be true, though, is that often we accustom ourselves to a certain standard of living, and that's absolutely right to do so. But sometimes, like, let me just give you an example. So, when I was starting to make my decisions about am I going to leave the bank, etc., etc., when I looked in at all the things that I had as outgoings, the first thing I did, I actually just went in and did a big sweep of all the things that weren't necessary because we do have a lot, we consume a lot, and we spend a lot because we have it. But if I knew then, okay, I don't think I'm going to have it in the future, or I need to be more discerning about where my finances are going, you'd be surprised if you start to go through things and you think, okay, is this really necessary? And there is a phase like that. And then after a fashion, so for me, it was things like Sky Movies and subscriptions to things that I was just like, I don't even need to be sitting and doing this because for me, I was working on a brand new life. So there was studying, there was volunteering, there was a different kind of job that was demanding. I was dreaming big about where I was going next, self development. So honestly, I had less time to sit and watch Sky Movies, for example. And I'm just giving you one example. There'll be lots of things in there. And then after a fashion, I gave my car up. I decided to get rid of my car, and that was like another mortgage payment because I just didn't need it. And then it continued and continued until I got to a point where it was minimized to the bare minimum. You don't have to live like that, but that's the choices for the extreme change that I made. There will be a balance in there for whoever's listening to this. There will be something that makes it possible. I believed it wasn't possible for a long time. But when you actually take a step back and really look at it and think to yourself, right, what could we do differently? How would this look? And, I think as well, like, if you, it's also about figuring out, well, if I'm not prepared to sacrifice these things that we use the money for, how do I become more satisfied with work? Because something might have to give, or there is something out there that could satisfy you more work wise, but you just haven't found it yet. Maybe it's going to require many, many knocks at many doors until you find that sweet spot, not just one or two chaps, and then you step back and go, oh, it didn't work. Maybe it's 10 applications, 20 applications. Maybe it's 5 recruitment agencies that all know what you're looking for. Maybe it's 10 interviews to find the one that feels right and then get the right sweet spot with money. Because I don't think we ever truly know. I always remember this about this girl I was friendly with in the bank, and she was telling me that there was this opportunity she was going for. Perfect, great job. But they said to her, oh, listen, we need you to come in 5 days a week to the office. And at that point, apparently she'd been working a lot, COVID at home, she had children. So when she applied for it and she found that out, she retracted her CV. They then contacted her and said, look, why did you retract your CV? Because, or your application, it was internal, because actually you have a lot of the attributes that are right for us. She's like, well, you see, this is just not going to work for me. So she knew what was important to her, but they went, look, can you still interview? Maybe there's something we could do. She not only got the job, which also paid her really well, but she also negotiated her standard for how many days in the office, how many days at home, and then also navigated it down to, I believe, a condensed hours in some way. So she's even less hours, same hours in some way, but less days. But she knew what she wanted. She had a standard, and she was willing to state that. And then the right thing at the right time just came together. So I'm a bit of a believer that we have to keep chatting the door, and we have to keep our mind on what it is we want. We stay open-minded because we might have a sacrifice somewhere. It might not tick every box, but there will be something about something at some point that you'll think, actually, that gives me more of what I want for the time being, or I can take that sacrifice because it gives me this, this, and this. And it might be a small sacrifice now, but the long term growth and promotion and financial growth, etc., is much bigger. So it might be a sidestep or a slight reduction, but with a bigger trajectory. Sometimes we just don't know that until we're in it. So, yeah, I understand though. If you have a question, I'm here if you want to ask me anything. Obviously, I've made the move away. My way of doing it would scare the bejesus out of most people. So, I certainly wouldn't recommend the way I've done it. But that's how it unfolded for me. I walked away from the bank with the same amount in the bank that I would have got at that time as a redundancy. And I'd saved it up. And I was like, well, I could keep this amount of money. It was a safety net, an investment for my future, or I can actually use it to invest in myself and my future. And that's what I did because other things became less important. It was more important for me to feel fulfilled and follow a dream and do something that I was so passionate about. And that's how I made it work. But here I am today. I've built about two-thirds of that money back up, which is good. I've continued to invest in other ways. And now I have my house rented out. I live in different locations, travel. Is it perfect? Oh my God, no. I mean, today is only an example of that when I've just had a bit of a meltdown on text to a friend, you know who you are, and then face to face with my sister just to vent it out because not every outcome is going to be perfect. So where you are is not perfect. But if it's so comfortable that it's now uncomfortable, maybe it's worthwhile being uncomfortable or taking some discomfort and the sacrifices somewhere else. Who knows? Only you'll be the one to figure that out. So I think that's really us for tonight. I'll leave you with some food for thought. You've outgrown this. What is it you've outgrown? Anyone that's watching this on catch up, come on, let me know in the comments on YouTube, and I will come back to you with something insightful. Well, hopefully insightful. You'll think it's insightful. Give me a wee follow if you haven't already. It would be great to have you on the journey. I will be sofa chats from next week. I will be in Oxford, and I'm really looking forward to being back there, staying with the most fabulous woman who put me up a couple of years ago, and I'll be staying with her in between doing some pet sitting jobs and just, yeah, enjoying Oxford, connecting with those fabulous people again, networking, expanding my own mind, if you will. So I don't know what's around the corner. I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes I have my moments. Uncertainty is your superpower, and I'm not just saying it. Tonight is a big reminder of this for me because if you can still keep moving forward, I'm saying I'm having a meltdown, but as you can see, I'm still showing up. That meltdown lasted an hour, if even that. There was no tears, a few wobbles, but no tears. Frustration, disappointment. But one thing I'm not is in discomfort from too much comfort. Please believe me, I'm in discomfort from risk taking, from movement. So pick your heart, pick the one. If you can be uncomfortable and know that it's creating the life you want and it's a tolerable thing and there's a good end goal that's not that far away, and you're like, you know what? Like my friend, she's got a part time situation coming up in a year, and then she'll be a number of years not long after to retirement. Great, she can tolerate it because she's building that roadmap. If that's not you, you're going to ask yourself, right, what does this look like for me? How long, much longer am I going to sit either with discomfort and feeling unhappy, or not just feeling gratitude for what I've got? You'll know, because if it's meant to be that there's a change in the horizon, you'll feel it internally and it will cause so much discomfort. You'll be forced out your comfort zone one way or the other. Anyway, let's wrap it up for tonight. Thanks very much for everybody for joining. Please subscribe and follow along, and I will see you next week. Same time, only different place. I'll be in a sofa from Oxford. I'll see you next week. Bye.